Syria's long war was not a civil war, but a truly global conflict. During nearly 14 years of death, destruction and displacement, more than 24 countries took part in operations both for and against the regime of Bashar al-Assad. For much of the outside world, the greater complication in Syria was the presence of the Daesh terror group. Hello and welcome to TRT World Special Coverage 1 year after opposition forces rolled into Damascus. I'm Adnan Nawaz.
And I'm Isabel Ewing. For Syrians, their main target was ridding the country of the dictator Bashar al-Assad. On this day, 1 year ago, that aim was achieved. For the next hour here on TRT World, both here in Damascus and in Istanbul, we'll look back at how the nation suffered 6 decades of repression. And we'll look forward to what comes next.
Coming up on our special coverage, how will President Ahmed al-Sharah's government deal with crimes committed during the Assad regime? A return to the global stage, the world has welcomed the new Syrian leadership, which certainly needs plenty of help from foreign partners. And we're going to ask how much space there is for women in Syria. Long marginalised will examine how women can increase inclusivity and plurality. So all of that to come, but remember, this is not just a long war from which Syria is recovering, rather an entire system built by the Assad family, who between father and son ruled the country for 6 decades.
Hafez al-Assad was involved in 3 coups before appointing himself as president in 1971. It was a reign of terror, containing all the elements of dictatorship: detentions, torture, consolidation of power, and murder. In 1982, his army killed up to 40,000 Syrians in the city of Hama. Early in the new millennium, the family patriarch's death brought the son, Bashar al-Assad, to power. Ordering a violent crackdown against pro-democracy rallies in 2011 sparked a brutal conflict that would last until 2024. The destruction was unimaginable. The human cost, immense. On December the 8th, 2024, a coordinated move by rebel forces towards the capital produced a sudden end to decades of oppression, fear, and violence. Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar ya shabab! Assad fled to Russia, and Ahmed al-Sharah would soon be installed as a leader of a nation that is being reborn with every new day.
Unlawful killings, torture, forced disappearances, chemical attacks, the abduction of children. The list is long, but these are just some of the crimes the Assad regime is accused of committing. Many say the success of Ahmed al-Sharah's leadership will be based on how the crimes of the past are dealt with. Justice and accountability, those are legal issues. Reconciliation and forgiveness, they're found in the mind. President Ahmed al-Sharah has addressed the nation in the past few hours. Let's hear what he had to say before a report from Noor Kormosh.
As we are taking steps towards building the new Syria, we are committed to transitional justice by holding accountable all those who violated the law and committed crimes against the Syrian people in order to preserve the rights of the victims and to establish justice. The Syrian people have the right to know and inquire, then either hold the perpetrators accountable or pardon them. This is the foundation of the state's stability and a guarantee against the repetition of such violations. This is the way in which trust is built between citizens and state.
Ziad, Ahad, Mahmoud, Mustafa and Usama all share the same fate. They were arrested, detained or disappeared, and their families have been left with nothing but questions. Their loved ones are gone, yet the weeping continues, not only for their absence, but for the unknown.
My brother was arrested in the Sport City area, which at that time was controlled by al-Assad. All detainees were held there before being transferred elsewhere. He was my only brother, the only family I had, and he had 2 children. We went to many security branches, but we were never able to find any record of him. We were told that he was most likely buried in a mass grave.
Rana's pain is echoed by thousands of families across Syria who demand answers about their missing relatives. Over 45 mass graves have been discovered so far, and estimates from local and international groups suggest over 300,000 people remain missing. For many survivors and rights groups, uncovering the truth is essential, and accountability must come before amnesty.
For amnesty, many people may choose to forgive, but shouldn't they at least know who they are forgiven? Many still deny what happened in Sednaya and other detention centers. Blanket amnesty is not logical, and granting general amnesty is not my right, nor the right of the new Syrian government. Syrians will never achieve peace if those who destroyed it over the past 14 years are not held accountable.
Human rights organizations warn that any future peace will depend on addressing these crimes through a comprehensive justice process.
Transitional justice is key to achieving civil peace today. If transitional justice measures are not coordinated with efforts to support civil peace and deliver justice to the families of victims and survivors, we will face many problems in the future. The only true guarantee for sustainable civil peace is implementing genuine transitional justice.
Across Syria, many fear that an amnesty without accountability could undermine long-term stability and hinder the process of national healing.
The Syrian city of Aleppo suffered more than most. There was a period during the war during which it was under siege for a long time. At one moment during that siege, the people of eastern Aleppo, which was bombed almost into non-existence, they asked their local imam for permission to eat the cats. Noor joins us live now from Aleppo. What a city and what a story and what a recovery, Noor. But the question is, what is the word you hear more often? Revenge or reconciliation?
Well, first, let me start by saying that the new Syrian government is under massive pressure by the people in regard to the transitional justice. So people acknowledge that taking revenge by their own hands against those perpetrators and involved in war crimes against civilians and Syrians in the past 14 years of the al-Assad regime officers will create a state of destabilization. So they understand that transitional justice is the only way they can actually pursue those who were involved in killing the Syrians for the past 14 years. Yet they say that their patience is running low. Many here have raised signs of those who have passed away in the past 14 years. Many here have raised the signs and pictures of those who are still missing in detention centers of the al-Assad regime. A lot of people are saying that they don't know how much they can wait until transitional justice is applied. All of Syrians agree upon one thing in particular, is that the new Syria, the new future of Syria, cannot be achieved without laying concrete ground for the transitional justice. Some advocate for forgiveness and amnesty. Others strongly argue that true peace cannot be achieved without true accountability for those who have participated in killing the Syrian people. So people understand that it's going to take time. People understand that the legislative authority is going to be formed soon, and this will lay the foundation for the transitional justice. Currently, the committee that was established since the fall of the al-Assad regime is currently working in this matter. Yet no actual steps have been taken. We haven't seen any trials for the al-Assad regime officers who have been proven to have participated in war crimes. So people understand that it's going to take time, yet they are adding more pressure for the Syrian government to make the procedures faster because they want to see, as they say, those perpetrators and those involved in killing their loved ones accountable for their actions.
Noah, thank you very much indeed. Isabel Ewing is in Damascus. What a scene there in Aleppo with all those people celebrating, Isabel. And I can hear the fireworks. I can see them behind you.
Yes, Adnan, the fireworks have been going non-stop here for hours, and we've just seen the square behind us continue to fill with people to the point where the authorities have stopped people from being able to enter simply because there are so many people there. Now, Ahmed al-Sharaa, the president, earlier spoke about transitional justice. Now, that's the process for a country to look to seek accountability for the crimes that were committed under the Assad regime. It helps the country to return to the rule of law and helps victims, many Syrians who have lost family members or family members missing, helps them find some sort of closure, some sort of accountability. Now, I spoke with a lawyer who spent years working under the Assad regime about why it's important to address the ongoing grievances that have been causing violence here in Syria. So, Mai, we're at the terrorism court here in Damascus, a dark place for many Syrians. Now, you've worked as a lawyer under the Assad regime for many years. Can you tell us a little bit about some of those cases that you fought, particularly for women who were trying to free their husbands or sons?
The women were subjected to such humiliation. They were told to forget about their sons. There were many similar insults directed at them. Some of my relatives were among detainees, and a friend of mine had a husband who was imprisoned. When the regime fell and liberation took place, she hoped he would be released. But they searched all the detention centers and security branches, and there was no trace of him. To this day, they know nothing about his fate.
So the president has set up a commission to focus on transitional justice. It's been criticised by human rights activists as being slow to act. Why is it really important that transitional justice is focused on to ensure that those grievances that are causing the ongoing violence are addressed?
Transitional justice is extremely important for the Syrian people. We don't want to return to the sort of era where we lived under the former regime. We need systems in place that people can believe in for justice to be achieved, and this is crucial for the Syrian people to feel reassured that the old days will not return. Justice will be achieved through committees, through the establishment of courts, and through fair investigative procedures, free from the previous absence of legal safeguards.
So the president's spoken a lot in the last year about reconciliation, but what does that mean in the Syrian context when so many crimes have been committed by the Assad regime? How does a country fully recover from that?
Civil peace is vital for the Syrian people because as Syrians, it means we have finally moved beyond the life we had endured and are attempting to end sectarian tensions and armed conflict. The Syrian people will at last find relief from this 14-year ordeal and work towards national reconciliation by activating reconciliation and civil peace committees and by strengthening institutions that educate the public on the importance of forgiveness and pardon. The recovery phase will be achieved through the full efforts of the Syrian people, who have suffered immensely for 14 years. We are very optimistic about achieving civil peace, national reconciliation, the establishment of justice, and the proper implementation of laws within just framework.
Shukran, Mai. Now, the new Syrian government has vowed to dismantle the Assad regime's security structures. The systems of control that were in place for so long sowed huge public distrust in government systems. So what's critical now is rebuilding people's belief that the government serves their interests. Danielle Neary reports.
Daily patrols have now become a familiar sight, a routine the internal Syrian security forces say is essential to restoring a sense of normalcy after a period of instability. The Interior Ministry describes their efforts as part of a broader push to reassure communities long scarred by conflict.
Our goal is to ensure civilians feel safe and to prevent any attempts by remnants of the Assad regime or others from disrupting stability.
Patrol units say the shift in public reaction suggests that trust, though limited, is slowly re-emerging.
We've noticed a major change in how civilians perceive us. In the past, security forces were seen as a source of fear and intimidation. Today, people look at us as a source of safety.
This area had previously seen an attempted coup by remnants of the ousted Assad regime, triggering clashes with the new government forces that stopped the attack. Security officials say this period marked a turning point, and they describe the current phase as one focused on preventing threats that could destabilize daily life.
We monitor the security situation closely to respond immediately when needed. Our work includes pursuing outlawed groups and remnants of the Assad regime through lawful raids, confiscating illegal weapons, and strengthening cooperation with the local community.
Many residents say the change is noticeable, and they hope that these efforts will eventually lead to lasting calm.
In the past, whenever we saw a security patrol, we would immediately hide. But now when we see the internal security patrols, we actually feel safer.
A stable daily life depends on whether these measures can truly hold and turn long-standing fear into a sense of safety. Danielle Neri, TRT World.
Now, I'm joined here in Damascus by a young Fazad Quran and also a medical student, actually. I want to ask you firstly, Fazad, we were talking just now that you might get nervous when the fireworks are going off. Can you tell me why it is that fireworks trigger as a Syrian?
I mean, these fireworks, they are now the sound of joy rather than the sound of war that we got used to. I mean, we got used to it because it was like wars and bullets and such things. But now it's the sound of joy.
And thank goodness for that. And growing up in Syria, I mean, you're a young person here. You've only known the Assad regime. Can you tell me about a specific memory that jumps out for you that's really vivid into that sort of summarizes what it was like to be a young person growing up here?
I mean, the most vivid memory that we got used to is the fear and silence. Many people were prohibited from talking in politics from an early stages in their lives, even in their own houses. We have in Syria a saying that walls have ears. What does that mean? It means that maybe someone may be listening and he will rat about us. He will rat on you.
The security landscape in Syria is something that is an ongoing shifting situation for the president and an ongoing challenge. But do you think Syrian people are beginning to feel trust in the internal security forces now?
I mean, just like we saw today, the helicopters were flying above civilians, and civilians were truly, truly happy to see that. I mean, it's such a joy to see that, turning it from wars to joy.
Of course. There have been flare-ups of violence that have resulted in the death of minorities in different areas of Syria in the past year, in March and in July.
Yes.
Do you think the government is beginning to handle those violent flare-ups better now?
Yes, the government is really trying so hard to make that work and to protect civilians and minorities, but it also needs the awareness of our people and our civilization to be aware of that, and many leaders also have helped us in that, such as al-Balous. He really helped in the situation that was going on in Suwaida.
And I mean, in terms of stability, I guess that's one of the biggest things that Syrian people are looking for now, is just some stability to be able to rebuild their lives and some semblance of normalcy in the country.
Yes.
What do you think is the biggest thing threatening stability in Syria right now?
I think having other hands from outside our country is really triggering our people to just get in conflicts, and it's making a big problem for us. And I think we have to unite and be, like just we say in Syria, to be like one hand and to make a new country for us. I think it will be great.
Fawza Quran, medical student and young Syrian, thank you so much for talking with me today. I appreciate it. And that's all from us for now in Damascus. Back to you in Istanbul, Adnan.
Thanks very much indeed, Isabel. Really interesting to hear from that young Syrian as well. Let's go to Doha and speak to Fadel Abdul Ghani, the founder and executive director of the Syrian Network for Human Rights. Welcome to the program, Fadel. You founded this network. How much are you participating? How much help has the government asked your network in terms of trying to deliver this justice for the crimes committed during the Assad regime? I mean, this process may take years and years and years, but it has to start somewhere.
Indeed, and actually we have a prolonged experience and the largest database. The government actually, we discussed that, and I think as a structured organization and well-trained, also well-informed about the context, and we have a huge database. We are talking about 16,200 alleged perpetrators from Assad regime only, for example. So we have a detailed data and evidence as well. We build it on daily basis. So we have communication between us and multiple ministries in Syria, and including the Transition Justice Committee as well, to support this path. I think we have ability and willingness to do that. That will enable the community to heal. Without accountability, without like this path, without reformation, I think we are in danger to recurrence again. That's what we want. We want two things, actually. Stability by prevent any revenge to take place, and also by reformation. That's the things we are noticing. There is now the relationship between the state institution, such as the Interior Ministry, and the citizenship became a normal again. That's what we want this to happen, but I think it still needs a huge effort and time. Missing person in Syria is the worst in all around the world. For example, each 100 Syrian, there is one missing person. And each 100 Syrian, again, there is 2 casualties. So 3% out of the Syrian population either been killed or disappeared. That's a huge, actually. So that lead us to how we're going to make the reparation and the redressing from a state. It's lack of any source of real economy until now. It's to make this path successful. Of course, Syrian Network for Human Rights willing to help by experience, but in addition to that, we need the international community engagement, especially via financial support, because justice is costly. If we are talking about building a hyper court in Syria, that means a huge cost. We need judge, we need lawyer, we need international expert as well to be with us. That means will lead to the healing. Otherwise, what we are noticing, especially from some perpetrator, they are like overpassing and they want to pass the history. I think that will lead to the revenge and instability.
Yeah, justice is a legal issue. But justice, Fadel, can also be a moral and a social issue. It's about having a job. It's about having a roof over your head. It's about feeling safe and secure. It's about being able to feed your family. It's also about political representation, of course. And right now, the new government hasn't yet passed the law which allows the formation of political parties. So how are people being represented? Where is the inclusivity, where the politics can help the people?
Indeed, you are totally right. There is level of justice. It's not only the jurisdiction one. Reformation is part of justice. Engagement in political path and parties is a part of justice as well, because Assad abandoned that. Freedom of speech is part of justice. So that transitional justice path is huge. It's not only confined to the committee. That a huge mistake. We hear it repeatedly. It should be from all the state institutions. working simultaneously in order to raise the Syrian rights, including participation. I don't see any room why there is a delay in opening the door to create a party. Parties, they don't need like a law to make this more like a restriction. It should be like just a notification, similar to the democratic state. That's sufficient, and we need actually we need parties in Syria, and also at the same time we need the society engagement. That's what we didn't notice as well. What we are noticing that there is a domination of celebration that doesn't enough. We need a political citizen whose they are engaged in daily basis and following up what is the government is doing. Is the path, the transition justice path and the political transition is matching the standard or not? How we going to distinguish, to make this distinction? That need a huge effort of acknowledgement, especially that Syria, especially who remain inside Syria, the majority of them is outdated about the what is being going on. So that need a huge effort of training, capacity building. All of that is part of justice. So justice is there is a level of justice, levels of justice. That's what we are working on. At the Syrian Network for Human Rights, the first question, we are not engaging only in building cases against Assad, which is essential. At the same time, simultaneously, we are engaging in training judge, training security forces, capacity building, raising awareness. All of that is a part of transitional justice.
Yeah. Fadil Abdelghani, thank you so much indeed for your time.
Thank you.
Here in the studio is Phyllis Katman, a senior fellow at the Center for Syrian Studies at the University of St. Andrews. Phyllis, thanks so much for coming in. Can we just pick up on that point that I was discussing there with Fadil Abdelghani? Why is the al-Shara government delaying the legal permission for political parties to be formed?
What happened in Syria in the past many years is a kind of a structure that it takes time to rebuild a new structure. So instead of an immediate change, it is better to have a kind of gradual change in the structure, which means that it will be a kind of robust, it will be strong, and it will be a kind of the one that fits to the new realities of Syria. So I think this is the main reason that should be taken into consideration while evaluating the transformation process that Syria has been going through, because what happened in the past years that took many years, it is really hard to create a kind of robust structure after that kind of very hard periods that Syria had been going through.
There are still many Daesh terrorists who are held in prisons by the YPG terror group in northern Syria. There have been reports over the past few days of Daesh cells launching attacks in that part of Syria. How big of a threat is this in terms of that part of Syria not being completely under the government's control, but having these two terror groups there?
This is the main challenge, I think, with regard to the strong and sustainable Syrian position in the Middle East. It's not only the problem of the Syrian government, I guess. It is a kind of Middle Eastern problem which deals very much with regard to neighboring countries, with regard to the stability which that prefers countries in the Middle East. So we should not consider it as a problem of the Syrian government. So this is one thing we should take it into consideration. And when we think about that, we should definitely think about Israeli involvement in this process. So while dealing with the terrorism, we should also take into consideration that counterterrorism operations need cooperation. So you can solve the problem within Syria domestically, but we should not forget that terrorism can only be totally countered with regard to the ties outside of the country, financial ties, military support, training support, and political support which are given to these terrorist organizations. And if these supports are not cut totally, we cannot talk about total counter-terrorism operations succeeding in that country. So I think this is one thing that Bashar is trying to reach with the recent visits and recent diplomatic ties that Bashar government tries to have with the neighboring region, with the neighboring countries, and also with the global actors in the Middle East.
How important is it that the Syrian diaspora returns? So many millions were internally displaced. Many millions had to leave the country. There was an opinion poll done at this time last year. About 54%, I believe, of Syrians who had escaped said that they wanted to go back. Now the number is more than 80%. And yet, in many parts of Syria, there's almost nothing to go back to.
This is one thing we should compare with what happened in Libya. I visited Libya back in those days, and the same spirit was ongoing, and the taxi driver who took me from the airport was the one who came from abroad to Libya with lots of hopes. But with regard to what happened in Libya, we should we should be very careful about it, that we should not let these people lose their hopes. And in that manner, a kind of a gradual process to integrate those people who are in diaspora to the country back. I know many students, many Syrian students who are dying to go back to their country, but they are watching it very closely, what is happening in Syria and how to return to their country, what is the basis, what are some kind of situations that they prefer to return. I think it will take some time to make those dreams come true for the Syrian people who really want to return to their country.
And in a country where the majority of the population is still living below the poverty line. So the challenge is just beginning. Filiz Katman, really appreciate you coming into the studio.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Ahmed al-Shara was once one of the world's most wanted men. There was a $10 million bounty offered for his arrest. Since he came to power, he's been greeted with open arms by most of the outside world. Just last month, he met President Trump in Washington. He became the first Syrian leader to visit the White House. As Hilal Uzun reports, the fall of the Assad regime has opened a new chapter for Syria's foreign relations.
Syria's diplomatic comeback is unfolding at a pace few expected. Once politically isolated, the country is now navigating new tracks with Arab states, the United Nations and the United States, each offering opportunity, pressure, or both. At the United Nations, officials say Syria's reintegration will depend on political stability and investment big enough to match the scale of a nation trying to rebuild itself.
To achieve this will require more support from the region and the wider international community, and sustained sanctions and export control relief, reassurances to banks and companies, and an accelerated path of domestic reforms. It also, of course, requires political stability.
That stability is now being tested on the world stage, especially after Washington moved to ease sanctions following a high-profile visit to the White House.
As you know, the leader of Syria was just here. We had a great meeting, and he's a strong guy, and I guess you need a strong person to run it. And I think Syria's made tremendous progress. We did lift the sanctions at the request of the Crown Prince. Also, the president of Turkey, Erdogan, called me specifically. He said, you know, if you don't lift the sanctions, Syria doesn't have a chance. If you do, they have a very good chance. And between the two of them and some others, I lifted the sanctions. And the results so far have been pretty good.
But experts warn this diplomatic momentum still faces a legal barrier. U.S. sanctions remain on the books, suspended but not removed.
The law is still in place. The law cannot be repealed unless Congress votes and unless it goes through the congressional process, which is going to take some time.
Across the Arab world and in Turkey, the message is clear. Syria's return strengthens the region, and the region
wants a stable partner.
The single message is that we stand by the brotherly Syrian people in this historic phase to rebuild their homeland on the foundations that preserve its security, stability, sovereignty, and unity, and fulfill the rights of its people to a secure, free, stable, and dignified life on their land.
For Damascus, these shifts go beyond diplomacy. They signal the beginning of a new political chapter, one where foreign policy, investment, and regional alliances could define Syria's future, as much as anything happening at home. Hilal Uzun, TRT World.
Let's go back to the Syrian capital and speak to our Middle East correspondent, Nizar Sadawi. Nizar, look, many say the government has made more of an impression internationally than it has domestically. And yet that visit that Bashar made to the White House just last month, what an important moment for Syria.
A very important moment. But let me just say one thing here, Adnan. Syria's transition is not happening in vacuum. Every important capital around the globe is watching closely and perhaps even recalibrating their playbooks. If there's one thing that the entire region now understands, is that a stable Syria actually reshapes the chessboard here. That's why there has been enormous support from certain Arab countries, regional countries, including Turkey, to Syria. They want this sort of stability because the alternative is not something that can be tolerable for any part in this region. We have to keep in mind that the move that came from the US president lifting the sanctions, I don't want to say completely lifting the sanctions, but let's just say easing the sanctions, putting a halt on the Caesar Act, for example, which is not nothing. It's very important. But these things only happened because of the enormous pressure that came from Turkey's president, Mr. Recep Tayyip Erdogan, from Mohammed bin Salman, the crown prince of Saudi Arabia, and other Arab leaders who are all interested in one thing, again, a stable Syria, because that would equal definitely a stable Middle East. Syrians here on the ground realize that what's coming ahead is not easy. It's not a rosy trip. It's not going to be an easy mission, but they're willing to rebuild, especially that this new government is actually doing what they can to make this dream come true. This is what Syrians here believe now.
Nizar, thank you very much indeed. Let's go to Beirut and speak to Sami Nader, the director at the Levant Institute for Strategic Affairs. Always a pleasure to have you on, Sami. Just continue that theme. How important is a stable Syria to the whole of the Middle East?
This is very important because Syria has always been the center of gravity in the Middle East, and today the collapse of the Assad regime, I mean, open a new door for stability. We have seen major regional power converging, their interests converging in supporting a stable Syria and putting pressures on the international stakeholder in order to lift the sanction, like Turkey and Saudi Arabia working together. I mean, these are the two major regional powers, and both of them are seeing in a unified Syria and a prosper Syria a key element for stability in the Middle East. And the prosperity in Syria, or a stable Syria, will also have a very positive impact, will reverberate on countries like Lebanon and Iraq, because it has always been the case that the players, or the regional players who were fighting each other on the Syrian arena, was also fighting each other on the parallel arena in Lebanon and Iraq. So helping Syria ensure a stable place will definitely contribute to a stable Middle East, and to maybe open the door for a sustainable peace in the region.
Sami also mentioned before just this issue of in northern Syria and these Daesh terrorists who are being held in prisons controlled by the YPG terror group. I have 14 pages here of very, very small typing of the different brigades and factions that fought in Syria's almost 14-year war. Belgium, per capita, sent more fighters to take part in the fight for Daesh compared to any other foreign country. Many of these foreign countries don't want to take those Daesh terrorists back. So where does that leave Syria with this problem?
And this is a big challenge, I think, and this is one of the biggest challenges today. And the international community bears a responsibility because they cannot use Syria as a backyard where they can send all the unwanted people. And if these all these fighters have grown in these countries, so it's not enough today to lend Syria support or lip service. There is a need for a concerted action at the international level in order to support the Syrian army, in order to support the transitional justice process that was kicked off inside Syria, and in order to ensure the condition for the economic reconstruction. It's true that the U.S. administration has suspended the section for 3 additional months. This is a very good sign from Trump administration, but at one point, I mean, there is definitely a need to cancel these sanctions. So there is a need for a concerted action from the international community in order to support Syria and the process. All the more that the new government has joined the alliance to fight terrorism. So today it needs to be dealt with as a partner in fighting terrorism, and once again, every single country needs to take its share of this burden.
Sami Nader, thank you so much indeed, sir. Let's go back to Isabel Ewing in Damascus. Isabel, justice, standard of living, security, economic recovery, all of this, it's all intertwined. And you're going to tell us about Syria's women. We don't know exactly what the population of Syria is, but the last time there were numbers was 2021. Women made up 49.9% of the population. Over to you.
Yes, Adnan. Well, women were marginalised both politically and economically under Assad, and their roles in governance were largely seen as symbolic. So when the regime fell, it was hoped that the roles and the rights of women would be at the heart of Syria's transformation. But when there were elections in October, only six women among the 119 people elected to the parliament, despite women having a significant role in the revolution. So what's being done to make sure that women's rights are equal in Syrian society? Here's Celine Tuta.
These days, Dina begins her mornings with a sense of purpose she once thought was impossible. 4 years under Assad, her ambition to work was crushed. Now she carries her camera as both a tool and a reminder of a space she can finally step into.
Before the liberation, women were unable to raise their voices or report events. After liberation, we were able to convey what was happening to the world, and things became more open. After the fall of Assad, there has been support for women and for those with ideas that can contribute to the country.
Across Syria, women have taken roles in relief work, local administration, and education. Yet, many women say they avoided political engagement due to security risks. Over the past year, local organizations say women's political and civic participation has grown steadily.
Women's participation in this sensitive phase is essential. both politically and socially. We are here in a media-focused session to highlight the importance of women's involvement in media to amplify women's voices. I believe women's voices today are more active and more important.
Still, activists say their progress remains fragile. Despite notable gains, rights groups say there's still much work to be done.
Previously, women's roles were often limited to civil or social sectors, and they were excluded from others. The Syrian revolution produced many political women, and the new government must reinforce this role. We've seen women present in some centers and directorates, but not yet at the level promised, especially regarding their right to be in decision-making positions.
For many women here, being able to raise their voices is only the beginning. The challenge now, they say, is turning visibility into influence and influence into long-term stability. Across Syria, women and men are working side by side to rebuild communities shattered by years of conflict. Women say their involvement has become much more visible and more influential. Yet many believe their full potential remains underutilized. They're pushing for broader representations in leadership, public life, and in reconstruction efforts. Selin Tutar, TRT World.
Okay, joining me now in Damascus is Lynn Al-Mazayan, who is a 22-year-old Syrian woman. Lynn, women like yourself should be the future of this country, I believe. Do you think the government is doing enough to make sure that there are enough women in the positions of governance, given that in the recent parliamentary elections there were only 6 women elected?
Actually, as you said, in Assad region, we didn't have any voice or president in the society. So now, until now, we are in, and al-Sharia president is making sure that women is involved in all of the society.
Why is it important to make sure women's voices are heard, especially as you say that they weren't properly heard and they weren't properly represented for so many years under Assad?
So women and men should be equal. All of things in life. So we're now hoping that we're like more involved, and yeah, that's it.
And I mean, in terms of gender equality, there's evidence to show that gender equality is linked to peace and sustainable peace. And so, how important is it that that is achieved for the new Syria?
Well, actually, like it's not. I'm sorry. It's not all on the president to do the peace and all of this. Like we have to do something to our country. Like we have to build it by ourselves. It's really good to see all of this in our country, in the heart of our country, and so I'm sorry. Okay, and so happy to see our people going like successfully.
And that's such a great point that you make, because it shouldn't be, as you say, up to the president to do these things.
Of course.
It's in the hands of people like yourself.
Of course.
I mean, we've had young guest Fazat and yourself in the show, which is so great to have your voices in our show. So thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, what is it that you think you and young people like yourself can really do to ensure that this country heads in a good direction?
Actually, when we was in Assad region, no one from my age considered to stay in Syria. We all thought about traveling, but now, for me, I really like to build my country as I'm an interior designer, so I have to do something great to my country, of course.
And so, among your friends, do people want to stay? Your friends want to stay in Syria. They don't as much have that pull to go overseas. Is it there yet in terms of Syria being a place that young people like yourself want to stay and build your lives?
After al-Assad is gone, so yeah, we are really hoping so that we can stay and have good jobs, good salaries to live, and to live a happy life in Syria.
And as you mentioned, I mean, The Assad regime crushed women's rights. That's not going to be fixed overnight, but it is your belief that change is possible there?
Of course it's possible, but we need all people to be hand in hand. And it's not just about the president, like it's not just him. No, we have all to be hand in hand and change. Yeah, of course it's possible.
Thank you so much. Leen Al-Mazayan, live for us here in Damascus. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going now to a story about many Syrians. More than, it's estimated, about 1 million Syrians have returned to Syria in the past year. Many of those people ended up in countries all across the world. Around 100 countries Syrians are settled in. Our correspondent Nizar Sadawi spoke to one of those people who's decided to return to this country and make it their home.
I'm Nisreen. I'm 42. For the past 14 years, I was both a banker and an activist. But my real story started 2011. It changed. It changed the way I think. It changed the way I live. At the beginning of the day, I am an employee. I go to work, and at the afternoon, it takes a different shape. I take to the streets. And it went day after day after day, until 2013, where my life took a very steep dive, where my friends, my two best friends, have been taken by the Assad forces. One of them was taken from one of the busiest streets in Damascus, and the second one was ambushed next to his gym. And I've never seen them since. Life on Facebook was different because, of course, I was behind a pseudonym. It was so important to talk in a language, to not reveal anything about myself, to always be cautious who you're talking to, because we are nobody to everyone, and everyone is a nobody to us. And we had to know that we're having our news from a reliable source. And of course, the state TV is not one of them. And there are lots and lots of stories flying everywhere. So misinformation and disinformation flourished in this environment. So we've decided to have a group that only publishes reliable news. Some of them was strictly eyewitness testimony. If you didn't see it, then just don't report it. And another group was to actually verify what's being published, what's being said. Having those two lives, a banker and an activist, has continued for years until it was December 8th. I went back to the outlets. I went back to the news. I followed the path from Aleppo down here. And when they finally came here, when I first heard the first Allahu Akbar in my street in the very early hours of December 8th, that was the day that I finally felt safe. All throughout the years of the revolution, I vowed to come here and break this statue with my own hands. And I always said that I'm gonna take the nose as a souvenir. I didn't get the chance to. People beat me to it. That minute, my heart got lighter 100 times. I knew that now I'm truly free. This country is ours again.
Well, the overwhelming impression that you have being here in central Damascus is just the huge optimism that Syrians have for their future. It has just been a remarkable scene here today with thousands here at Umayyad Square, celebrating not only 1 year since Assad fell, but the potential future, and a future that many feel very optimistic about. Back to you, Adnan, in Istanbul.
Isabel, thank you very much indeed. Erasing the memories of a lifetime spent under dictatorship is impossible. Reconciling the past with the present is difficult. But as Isabel said, the future represents hope. While celebrations this Monday are marking the end of the Assad regime, they're also part of a new beginning. We'll leave you with pictures of some of the latest scenes from across Syria. It's exactly 12 months since the end of more than 50 years of repression and fear. Thank you so much for watching.